there's incredible intolerance when things go wrong. It's because aggression goes to extremes very quickly. Intolerance, anger. So this could be someone who has everything together, they got the job, they got the family, but the time a kid does something wrong, they strike out or be over angry or over disruptive and blow the whole thing. It's not normally the over aggressive. It usually diminishes it. Usually the things happening to you. This breaks away. This didn't work. I didn't fit in there. I failed at this. I didn't do this. It's not the guilt or sorrow. It's just the shock. There's an unstableness affecting that Mars. Excitability. That's going to be hard. That's going to be the kid that can't sit still in kindergarten or in grade 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Just because they can't sit still and the rest of it doesn't mean they can't learn. They just got to have a very physical recess or be able to do things rather than they can have some place where they can be free and independent. Nobody's going to give it to them. They might have to find it for themselves. Okay. That's Uranus, shock, excitement. Next one is Neptune, the planet of romance and adventure. So what's a romance and adventure going to do to Mars? I'm going for it. I see the dream. I want to do this for you. We'll be together and we're going to go and we'll move to the country. We'll get off the grid. We'll live perfectly. Or we'll go to China. We'll go to Bali and we'll have the dream. We're going to go for the dream. So Neptune's the vision, the dream, the illusion. It's the rapture, but it's also the sorrow, the guilt, the dependencies, the expectations. So Neptune weakens Mars. It confuses Mars. On an aggressive level, it can make Mars super fanatical and really distorted and out to lunch. But it makes it hard to choose what should you do. So very often, there's a confusion about how many people you should sleep with, how many jobs you should have. What can you actually do, or why bother making that? So with each of these outer planets, there's an inbred disassociation from Saturn, from accomplishment. It doesn't fit in. This is happening. But Mars, Neptune, it weakens the passion, it weakens the sexuality. It can make it fanatical as a believer, like I got to do this, I believe I got to do this, like Don Quixote chasing the windmill, fighting into the windmill. But it can be delusive action. It can be doing things with wrong people, doing things without discrimination. It can be getting in with wrong crowds. You add alcohol or drugs to that, Mars Neptune is really in trouble. So Neptune confuses the priorities, confuses the responsibilities, and tempts you to run this way or that way, go for this is better than that, I gotta have this now, to go for the dream or to go for the escape, or to not bother going at all. Why should I even bother doing that? So when it's positive, when it's aggressive, it comes out as the messianic fanatical. When it's more passive or weak, it's why bother? It's a little laid back. It's why hold the job? Why be that consistent? Don't push me. It's not going to be competitive. It's more likely to be disassociative than competitive. It's going to weaken the competitive and weaken the muscles. And a tendency to align with people that are tempting you to do wrong things or confusing things or things that aren't going to make you stronger or make you better. So, or things that make you guilty. So Neptune is guilt, sorrows, dependencies. You make love to someone and you feel you owe them and you got to stay with them and you get caught there drinking, like codependency is Neptune. On your Mars, you did something with someone, you did something too, so now you're codependent or reactive with it. How do you get it simple? So simple actions, how do you simplify Mars? Usually there's a need for dedicated social worker, help with fighting for a cause, that you're doing something, you're helping people. Getting people off the streets, visiting people in hospice, things like this. You're doing things that it feels good, it doesn't increase the guilt. But the minute you're blamed for anything with Neptune Mars, you're going to come out fighting or feel totally guilt-ridden. So if you have a kid that has a Neptune to their Mars, they're going to have this confusion. They're going to have confusion. Their guidance system is going to confuse. They're not going to be sure what to do. Their dad will want something, their mother will want something. But if they have this confusion in their Mars, it was there between in the loyalty between the parents at birth. Who's real, who's doing what? That confusion was there too. Sometimes that can be sexual unloyalties or confusions. Sometimes it can be husband wasn't working, or there's a poverty element. There's some loss that's interfering with what one could do, how we can take care of this kid. but the kid picks it up. So there's so many causes and so many things that seem adventurous and romantic. It takes time to be discriminating to know that one's not worth it, this isn't worth it. And the sorrow and the confusion of Neptune can lead to the compassion and the faith in believing that you're okay when you've learned to avoid the temptations. Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. That's the Mars going into temptation. How do you stay simple and clear? So Mars, Neptune, it has an aloofness. It's someone that could be passionately sleeping with you 1 minute and then very aloof, and detached and not into their body the next. Evasive. Wow, this affects potency, this affects their energy, and they're going to feel guilty or confused about it. Other people may avoid them, they may avoid other people. It's hard to be consistently direct. Neptune's going to weaken the Mars. When you add drugs or alcohol to it, it means all the bad associations and doing all the most difficult things. So if you have a kid with this, the work is to get your life self-reliant enough to teach the kid that it's okay to be self-reliant and do things for himself, to not always be trying to fit in or do what other people say, and to keep things simple. But if he has the Neptune to the Mars, or she has the Neptune to the Mars, simple is an easy concept, but if the parents aren't living simple, how are they possibly going to learn it? If the parents' expectations are too great, I want my daughter to be the doctor, and she wanted to be a nutritionalist or a therapist, not a doctor, didn't want to push that far. So it weakens ambition. It makes them a little fanatical, gullible and confused around relationships, around passions, and blaming oneself for what one did or didn't do. The Neptune is affecting the Mars. It's a different type of stress. You still have to be your Mars. When you have Neptunes, there are going to be confusing, guilt-ridden things that come up. And you're going to have to learn to move away from the difficult things and to do without the difficult things or the guilt-ridden things and try and stay self-reliant and keep things simple. Just because 3 boys are in love with you and think you're the most beautiful person in the world, and they each want to sleep with you, and they say they're totally in love with you, how can you let anyone down? But if you don't, huge scandals and confusions will build up. That it'll affect your behavior from then on. Neptune's very insidious in how it's tempting and confusing. And it has all the expectations. It could be simply you're doing something, then you're expecting to get from it, and it's not coming. Your expectations aren't being, hey, Mom, look at what I did. Who cares? They're evasive, they're too busy to really look. So you can go up with that haunting sense of whatever you do isn't enough. So why bother? So if you have this is a karma, these other planet things, really, your whole chart really is things from other lifetimes. It's the result of whatever you didn't deal with last time that you have to come forward and take care of in this lifetime. So if you have it, isn't it a good chance in another lifetime, either you dished out the unreliability, you had run across you and you had to be unreliable for some reason or not in this lifetime. It doesn't mean it's totally unreliable. It just means it's simple. A little yoga, little basic little practices, little dedication to a cause does wonders because they help improve the faith in yourself about what you're doing. But the lack of that faith, of not trusting anything, of not believing in yourself, will let you get into a lineup with all sorts of people. It's hard to get through your teenage years easily with these aspects. It doesn't mean, when I say that, I don't mean it's just complicated situations. It doesn't mean you're going to die or do yourself, but it does have who's real. There's a loneliness involved with this, a sadness involved with this. And it could come out fanatically angry if you're blamed. At the same time, it can be so guilty. So what is the song? I'm never going to dance again. Guilty feet ain't got no rhythm. Story by about somebody having an affair and then feeling guilty and lost a relationship. And then, so there's a need to be right. Better to be righteous than guilty. But there's a lot of something's not as it seems where Neptune is. Neptune's making it brings temptations and opportunities to Mars. Some are incredible, and some will be incredible, but they won't be. Like someone could have that. They could, suppose they pushed, they won the Olympics, then they'd be haunted because they could never get a job doing anything like that again in their life. Someone else could just have prejudice, or someone else could just have complications, or someone else could have relationships and make love to people and pick up diseases or confusions by not taking time enough to know someone. So I'm looking, you see, we're looking at the stress with these outer planets. There's a positive effect. There's a work to make it positive, but really it's to avoid the potential negative. So you see it in a chart, someone Neptune Mars, they're going to need to have their energy directed properly or fairly well anyways, so that they get some discipline, not just run away from it. But it has to be honest, not unfair. Prejudice is another thing tied into Neptune, affecting what one does or what one doesn't do. So if you get angry and blame the world, you can become really, really countercultural and counter-legal and going off, hang out with the gangs or with the wrong people. It's a puzzle, and when you got it, it's your puzzle. You have to find out how to get faith, how to have faith in what you're doing, how to believe in your own actions, whether other people are believing in you or not. That's the Neptune puzzle. We see Neptune in astrology. We can see it in the natal chart. We sense its presence. When you get to the transits and you see these things moving around, when they start happening in a person's chart, when Neptune goes around, it's going to happen to you. When Mars moves around, when Mars hits your ascendant, it's your Mars with the aspects it has that's going to hit your ascendant. Someone else that can have exactly the same aspect and have totally different aspects in their Mars and have very different experiences. So you don't want to freak out and get totally negative. At the same time, this puzzle's there. And the challenge becomes how do you get around this? So these are the things we deal with by getting each planet in its right perspective. If you have everything in place, you're just doing it. These are dreamy things that don't have to come up right away, but they'll be there in some way. You're going to have to deal with it. Then you're in the puzzle, how to make the best of this. Simple direct actions are a lot better than mixed signals.